Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about more plant science. We're going to talk about pruning. We're going to focus on auxin and apical growth. So this is probably something new to a lot of people. Should be a lot of value in this video, so stick around and let's learn more about plants. Okay, before I get started on any of that, and I do want to mention something. You guys know I'm not the type to say, hit the subscribe button and all that kind of annoying garbage that people do. Unfortunately, it does work, but I do need to let you know about some of the stuff that is going on in the channel. I did make that membership video, so if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting something back for that, check out the membership by checking the join button just below on the next to the subscribe button. Another thing I've done is people who know me know that I kind of detest this company, but I have set up a Amazon affiliate program on my channel because why not? So basically what this means is if you hit the link below in the description of the video for Canada or US and you're going to shop at Amazon, then just by going through my link, Amazon knows that you came from my channel, and they will basically give me a very small markup, like it's a fraction of a single percent. But if the channel grows large enough, I can suggest different products and you can choose to buy them on Amazon or somewhere else locally. But I like the idea that it doesn't cost you anything to support the channel. So it's a great way for somebody to support the channel who doesn't necessarily want to shell out any extra money than they would be otherwise. So if you're buying on Amazon anyways, if you start your channel, you're shopping there at the link below, it does actually support the channel. And then I kind of like the idea of money that, because it doesn't cost you anything, the money comes from, Jeff Bezos basically. So a fraction of Jeff Bezos's money gets turned into planting more trees. So I kind of like the idea of that. So I just want to let you guys know about that quickly up front, and let's get into pruning. And we're going to talk about some science fundamentals behind bushes and pruning, mistakes people make, tools and ways that you can use coppices and pollards specifically to solve problems. These are some of the things that have actually come up in my consultation job, so I want to share that with the rest of you as well. When we understand a little bit more about how the plant reacts and how the plant works, we can make intelligent decisions with the actions that we take in the plant pruning to maximize our benefits. So let's get right into that right now. Okay, so let's talk about the physiology of a plant branch. We have this long branch coming off here with a bunch of buds, axial buds coming off, and then we've got a terminal bud. Now, if you look at this specific branch, you'll notice that we've got growth shooting out of the sides of some of these branch buds that are a little further away from the terminal bud on this branch. And why that is because inside this terminal branch here, there's a hormone called auxin. And auxin, what it does is it suppresses the lateral growth coming out of the axial buds around it. And these buds will stay dormant until this branch here grows further from the tip. Okay, so why that happens, it's an evolutionary thing, because plants that developed this characteristic of this hormone, what that allowed them to do is it allowed that pushing branch to push vertically up as far above other plants and outcompete them. So for this reason, those plants that exhibit that behavior, they have a natural survival fitness that allows them to outcompete other plants and expand their DNA. So in terms of, Darwin evolution, these plants that have this auxin terminal hormone to promote the growth of that vertical branch, they outcompeted other plants, and now pretty much all plants will demonstrate that characteristic. Okay, so now let's look at another example, this pear tree. And you can find these examples everywhere, in every single tree possible. We have a branch coming off, and pears really want to get up and vertical. And you'll see that we have growth coming out on the side branches all through here. And then we have the auxin at this terminal bud preventing the growth of all of these side buds here. Now, what people will typically do when we make pruning cuts is we'll over prune, we'll prune too much. And what we do is we remove too many side growing buds. And if you think about the total number of buds that this plant has, when we do massive pruning cuts like this and we remove lots and lots of these side buds, but we don't impact the roots underneath, all that root energy is now being shared between fewer buds. So how I can balance that is when I'm making a terminal cut here, I can choose to just remove fewer of these potential new bud growth sites, say cutting it here instead of down there, and that will allow for more sideways growth off of this. It'll allow for more spurs, and it'll allow for more fruit coming from this tree, as well as less vertical energy sucking growth locations. As well, say I were to make a cut here, this is going to become now the new vertical dominated branch, and it's going to go straight, it's going to bend itself straight upwards, and I'm just going to have the same problem next year. It's going to be the same thing. Now, in fact, if all I want is this branch here to bush out and go out sideways and make more sideways shoots, all I need to do is remove the auxin. Now, the auxin in the top terminal bud, it creates what's called optical dominance, which is basically the dominance of that main central running branch, whether it's the central branch of the whole entire tree all the way up to the top, or it's also contained in any other of the branches that have a terminal bud, have a concentration of the auxin hormone in the terminal bud and suppressed lateral growth all along it. If I want this thing to branch out as much as possible, literally all I need to do is remove this one bud. Now, depending on how I want to shape the tree, on where I want those sideways growths to come out of, I can change that height, but I should just be aware of how many buds I'm removing and the fact that the root base of the plant isn't being changed. So the more buds I remove, the more water shoots and vertical shoots I'll get. And the fewer buds I remove, the more actual what I want, that vertical sliding out sideways branching, that I'll actually get. Now, along that vein, let's talk about pollarding and coppicing a tree in order to obtain a desired shape. Okay, now I set this shot up for a reason. Behind me here, I have a pollarded sumac tree, and I want to use this as an example. Wintertime's a great time to do this because you can see the growth structure of the tree. I want to use this as an example of how you can use this for a function. And I'm going to use an example from one of my consultation jobs. There's a wonderful lady out in British Columbia. I don't know if she wants me to share her name or anything, so I'll just leave it at that. And what she has is a wonderful, beautiful permaculture garden in her backyard. And one of the sections that we're working on right now is this laurel hedge. Laurel is like basically a large bush with fairly large leaves, and people use them as hedges for that reason. They basically will block vision lines out. Now, she's got this in her backyard, and it's a bush that she constantly has to kind of prune and remove material from in order to keep it from taking over. Right now, the problem would be that she's got a very vigorous growing bush that's kind of taking a lot of space, taking sunlight from other plants, and it's just not really producing much of value besides shading out, the backyard of the neighbors. Now, at the same time, one way to solve this would be to take the whole bush out. Now, if we take the whole bush out, we're doing a giant pruning cut, which would be basically a coppice, right? Coppice is cutting something right at ankle height or like right at ground level. And what that's going to do is some plants will die from that. Some plants are are not very good at handling that level of pruning. Some plants have evolved the ability to handle that. Laurel is a great example of a plant that can handle that very well. And what it'll actually do is send a ton of sucker growths up because the root system is still large. The root system is such that there's a bunch of nodes under the ground where new growth can pop up. So this plant, if we just cut and remove the whole thing, she's just going to kind of turn one plant into like 50 new plants that are very vigorous and trying to regrow. At the same time, the root system will shrink because that's where the energy is coming from to produce all this new growth. So if she wanted to get rid of it in this way, she could. She's just going to be battling it for a really, really long time, constantly cutting it, new growth, and she's just kind of doing this juggling act where she's constantly trying to stay ahead of this. Now, in permaculture, we often try to turn a problem into a solution. So this is a great area where we can do something like that. When plants die back, is the roots die back accordingly. So if a plant will get less photosynthesis, the plant roots can sense that it's in a new regime, and it will basically constrict how much roots they have and try to balance the plant out. The plant will try to fight for new light and all that kind of stuff, but the root base will kind of shrink if the photosynthesis input is also shrinking. So a great way to fight this is actually to fight it not at the ground level by cutting the plant, but rather to fight it at the sun level of preventing sun getting to the plant. And a good way to do that would be a pollarding cut on a fast, vigorous growing tree. Now, we'll go over and take a look at that pollarded tree, and I want to show you basically wherever, remember when I was talking about that big long vertical growth with the terminal bud having the Auxin, and if we cut that, it'll shoot out as much as possible from all the side buds. If we cut too much off, then we lose all those side buds that would grow out, and maybe there's only a couple on that tree, on that branch. But at the same time, the further we cut, we control the height of where those growths will come out. And we want to control that and then create a giant bush at the height that we want it. So for example, she has a fence that's about 6 feet tall, and then she's got laurel hedge that's maybe 2 or 3 feet above that. So what we want to do if we're going to combat this with a tree is plant a very vigorous growing tree that likes to be coppiced. So that is something like a poplar, like a birch, like sumac. There's tons of different plants that will coppice really well. Maybe in the description below, I'll add a section on plants that do coppice very well, so you can use them in your designs. Now, what you could do is plant a young, vigorous tree. It's not going to solve the problem right away. So for the right away, you just prune it, and you take those, all that organic matter from the cuts, and you make compost with it. You drop it down as mulch. You kind of use that bush as a, organic matter factory for your food forest. But for the long-term solution, if you planted a very vigorous tree and you planned a pollarding cut at it, maybe at its like 5th year of growth or something like that, maybe third year of growth for something like a poplar, then you could get the thing to fan out and block the sun from that laurel hedge. And when that laurel hedge gets the sun blocked out, the roots will die back as well. They'll create aeration pathways, water pathways in the soil, and root pathways for the trees that you plant to the south of it to really capture and take and make use of all these new highways for making roots. And as well, when they shrink and die down, the soil microbiology will eat them, the mushrooms will eat them, and convert that over to nutrient. So it's like taking that laurel hedge, and instead of just removing it all and constantly fighting with it, we're going to instead fight with it for sun, and then we're going to turn the root dieback into soil building that's happening automatically as nature kind of balances itself out. And in this way, we can succession the laurel hedge into a food forest, fruit tree, fruit bush, pollarded, overstory guild. And the laurel hedge will be the battery that feeds nutrients to this guild. So it's this kind of smart design that I really want to teach on this channel, where you can come up with these kind of out-of-the-box solutions for tough problems that you can only have if you take a longer-term approach to this. Okay, so here we have a small little guild that I did on the side of this berm. So this is a swale here that cuts across the property. And then we've got a berm that we've planted different plants in, apples and haskcaps and bartnut. So here's a bartnut tree. It's to the north side of this sumac, and the sumac, I had pollarded it. So a pollard is like a coppice. Remember, a coppice is cutting it at ground level, causing the roots to grow out a whole bunch of different new shoots. And I'll show you some coppice cuts down there. This one here, I wanted to pollard it. So I pollarded it for a couple of reasons. I wanted to try a pollard cut and see how it responded. But also, this Bartnut in my climate has a real hard time with getting full sun while it's young. So I wanted to the north or to the south of it to create a shading effect where only dappled sun would get to this Bartnut. And it's been an extremely successful method here because I didn't see any signs of leaf damage or burn on this Bartnut at all. And the pollarded sumac is a big reason why. So when I pollarded this sumac, we'll talk about the cuts that I did, and then you can see the response of the plant. And in this way, I can kind of time lapse you forward. So when you make a cut like this on a plant of yours, you'll kind of see how it's going to look maybe a couple years later. Okay, so you can see the approximate diameter of the plant. It's probably about 4 inches in diameter. And what I wanted to do is cut it in a way where I had a couple buds that I knew it would shoot growth out of. Now this bud, believe it or not, is only about 2 years old. And you know, when I cut it, it was just a bud this big. This is what it looked like down on this cut here. And you can see the amount of energy that the plant put into this growth. It's unbelievable. This thing's already about 2 inches, 2.5 inches in diameter. Similarly, this looks like it's an older piece of the part of the tree. It's not. This was actually a bud, the same size, growing out of this piece maybe 3 years ago. So this growth, this level of growth is massive after only 3 years. Okay, now this here is an example of a coppice cut. This is one tree here where I coppiced it off, and it sent up 1, 2, and a weird sideways 3 growth. You can see that these are already basically the size of roughly a 4-year-old tree. And this is about 2 years later after making this coppice cut. And already I have kind of 4-year-old sized trees, multiple of them. And it's in this way that you can kind of harvest a lot of biomass. That's why I'm doing this. But say you were just doing this to shape the tree, a tree that coppices well, you could turn one tree into, you know, 4 or 5 sideways growing trees. You could train them out over, and then you could turn kind of a tree into a hedge. You could turn, say, 1, 2, 3, 4 trees into 12 and make kind of a hedgerow out of them. Now, for my application of this, I wanted the pollarded tree to the south of the tree that I want to protect from early sun when it's young. And then this will come down over time, and this will become the overstory tree. For the other case, we actually wanted to reverse it, where on the north side, so just pretend that this is north. On the north side of the tree that we want, right now we have massive laurel bushes that are sending massive roots, you know, through this whole garden, and you wouldn't want to plant a tree into such a heavily dominated root zone competition. So you could plant a new tree, let it, a quick growing tree like a poplar or something like that, and down the road you could pollard it, get it to bush out, fight the light from the laurels, and then the laurels would die back. And to the south side of this, now you're planting your new food forest fruit tree guild into what would have been otherwise before, you know, really heavily dominated root space from the laurels. The pollard tree acts as a sunlight competition to the tree behind it, to the established trees behind it. It gets smaller, it dies, its roots die back, but the roots, more importantly, are being used to build soil and to build those aeration pathways that these trees can take advantage of. So this is a way where you could transition from a larger, mature, established tree that would be behind this pollard, and on the south side, you're going to fight it with light, and you're going to grow a fast-growing tree like a poplar or a birch or something like that that responds well to coppicing and pollards. You'll make those coppice pollard cuts, get it to branch out and spread, fight the light, fight that light battle, and the root systems will die back. And to the south of even the pollard, now you're establishing the next level transition. So you've got maybe an overstory tree, some understory trees, bushes, and you've got the permaculture guild on the south side of that. And in this way, the established trees that are behind the system will become the batteries that feed the rest of the system as it succeeds. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something about tree hormones, auxin, terminal buds, and it's the genetic driver for why trees are successful. They want to get up above something else. And we can use that information and knowledge and use it to our advantage by making a terminal cut, a cut at the terminal bud, triggering where we want lateral buds, and we want a lot of lateral growth. You can control the height, you can control the shape of a plant, and kind of use science to solve problems for you when you run into them in the garden. I'm gonna leave you with some dog footage. We have our niece coming over to introduce our brand new puppy, an Aussie Doodle. It's like 75% poodle, 25% Aussie Doodle. And they're getting an Aussie Doodle, we're getting an Aussie Shepherd. And they're gonna meet Harry, Ginny, and Max. Their dog is gonna meet Harry, Ginny, and Max. And Lucy, which I think is what we're gonna settle on, is going to meet our dogs in 2 weeks. And that's our new Aussie Shepherd. So look forward to that. We'll do some puppy videos. Everyone likes some puppy TV. All right, thanks for watching. We have a friend whose son, Wyatt, is starting his own YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go make a kid's day, pop over to Cooking with Wyatt. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Just give him a view, maybe send him a comment, give him some encouragement. I know I have some amazing viewers who are going to take me up on this offer. Go make the kids' day, because I know when you first start a YouTube channel, you know, every single view, every single subscriber means a ton to you. So yeah, if you want to go make a kid's day, that would be so awesome. Check out Cooking with Wyatt on YouTube. Good luck, buddy.
Harry's like, what is that? Be big to introduce him to as many dogs as you can.
It's okay.
Harry's like, hi,
so
Harry. What's your name? Jack's like,
Harry, be nice.
so interested. Look. He was the only one really sniffing us last night. The others didn't really.
Oh my God. Harry, just leave him, buddy.
If we try Max, Ginny.
He's like,
Good girl, Ginny.
he's like, help me, I'm scared.
There. But,
If we try Max, we need to take away Ginny.
Jax.
oh my God, how was he last night?
No, it's because Max wants to
He
impress
woke up
Ginny.
Harry's
like,
so interested in
If
him.
Ginny's here, Max will want to prove to like Ginny.
Hi, Harry. He's like, hi, friend. I know, right? Hi. Raise hi.
That's a bodyguard. You're bigger than me.
Harry doesn't know that Jax is
It's funny because
Yeah,
Jax
he's
is bigger than him and
little
Harry's not even
Another
scared.
little
Because I
guy.
think he knows he's a baby. Like, that's what I said. Like, they just know. But he's a big baby.
He's really sniffing them up, man.
Jax was shaking. He was so scared. Ginny. Ginny's been good. She doesn't seem to really
Mine's like
care.
the big.
She's like,
the
really?
big
Another
really
boy?
small dogs sniff each other. Very neat
He's
sniffing.
gonna hide again.
Jax is added to their pack.
Aww.
All right, and now we are going to go for a walk. Hey, buddy. Got his coat on. See you on the next one, guys.